30 chapters. We're in chapter 7. I got to tell you, if you've been following with us, I understand the first 9 or 10 chapters seem a little bit redundant. Again, we're here warning against the adulteress, and you're wondering, well, why does it seem kind of redundant? Well, understand the first part of Proverbs really is kind of an introduction, and really it's kind of getting across some basic concept of just grabbing wisdom, fearing God. This message of adultery or warning against adultery kind of has a double meaning, in that is talking about literal adultery, that is, don't chase after, somebody that you're not married to. Don't try and find happiness somewhere else. Stay committed in your marriage. But also, it speaks to Israel historically, because she was considered an adulteress as Israel had left worshiping God. And so you see this theme, particularly in the Old Testament, where human race, we divorce ourselves from God, we betray God, we are just like the nation of Israel. When people turn their backs from God and they worship false gods, God looks at that as, it's not just idolatry, the worship of false gods and worship of idols, but also adultery, that is betraying Him, cheating on God. And so that also is kind of here in the background. But let's go ahead and get into chapter 7. And again, the speaker of Proverbs, in this case, traditionally it is King Solomon talking to his son. He says, "My son, keep my words and treasure up my commandments with you. Keep my commandments and live. Keep my teaching as the apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Say to wisdom, you are my sister. And call insight your intimate friend, to keep you from the forbidden woman, from the adulteress with her smooth words. For at the window of my house I have looked out, and through my lattice I have seen among the simple, I have perceived among the youths a young man lacking sense, passing along the street near her corner, taking the road to her house in twilight in the evening." And excuse me as I switch over to logos here. He goes further down. "At the time of night and darkness, and behold, the woman meets him dressed as a prostitute, wily of heart. She is loud and wayward. Her feet do not stay at home. Now in the street, now in the market, and in every corner she lies in wait. She seizes him and kisses him. With a bold face says to him, I have offered sacrifices, and today I paid my vows, and now I have come out to meet you, to seek you eagerly, and I have found you. I have spread my couch with coverings, colored linens from Egyptian linen. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of love until the morning. Let us delight ourselves with love, for my husband is not at home. He has gone on a long journey. He took a bag of money with him. At full moon he will come home." And so this is painting a little more of a picture of what's going on here, obviously, of this young man being tempted and to go sleep with this woman. And I think it's kind of interesting in here where, she says, "Oh, I've offered my sacrifices," and all this kind of stuff. And, just kind of paying sacrifices to who? Sacrifices to what? Some false god? Or is she just seemingly religious on the surface, going through the motions? And, what does that have to do with anything? So that's something kind of interesting to look at. Today I paid my vows. But really, the message is really the same. Stay away, run away, right? And then he goes further down here, verse 21. With much seductive speech she persuades him. With her smooth talk she compels him. All at once he follows her, and as an ox goes to the slaughter, a stag is caught fast till an arrow pierces its liver. A bird rushes into a snare. He does not know that it will cost him his life. And now, sons, listen to me, be attentive to the words of my mouth. Let not your heart turn aside to her ways. Do not stray in her path, for many a victim she has laid low, and all her slain are a mighty throng. Her house is the way to Sheol, going down to the chambers of death. And so you can see at this point, we're not just talking about a single adulteress anymore, but it's something bigger, something greater, right? Temptation to sin, temptation to betray God, to go away from his ways. And her house is the way to Sheol, the place of the dead, right? And so, in a culture that is so enamored with sexual promiscuity, bodily moral autonomy, just about everything that is the opposite of what we read in Scripture. We see in Scripture just so many warnings, and it always seems to end up on the topic of sex, but it's really interesting, especially in the wake of the Roe v. Wade reversal. We see a lot of commentary and a lot of things being said that pits those of us who might hold to a biblical worldview as extremist. And it sounds really odd. If you're a Christian, you're a Bible believer, extremist, radical, it doesn't really seem to describe us. And yet, when we live in a world that is really given over to sensual pleasures and these kinds of things that we're even warned about in the New Testament, that's their God. That's the God they worship. You got to understand, if you're not worshiping the God of the Bible, you're most likely you're going to end up worshiping the gods of this world, and really that's going to be, it's all about sexual pleasure, sensual pleasures, accumulating wealth, all these kinds of things, whatever you think is going to make you happy. And so there's both a small picture and a bigger picture that we see when we read through Proverbs, and you want to make that application. It's not just that particular sin, but in the wider context of just how we live and who we live for and who we live unto. Are we God's servants? Are we servants of this world? You cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve two gods. You will love one and hate the other, right? So we got to be very careful in that. We're going to go ahead and move on to chapter 8 this morning, and so let's go ahead and do that. Does not wisdom call, chapter 8, does not understand to raise her voice in the heights beside the way at the crossroads. She takes her stand beside the gates in front of you of the town, and at the entrance of the portal she cries aloud. This is interesting. Why is it talking about the gates? Often the gates in front of the town, this is where judges would sit. This is where magistrates would be. It was very traditional that the leaders, they would be towards the front of the town. They'd be at the gates of the town. This is where they would meet. To you, O men, I call, and my cry is to the children of man. O simple ones, learn prudence. O fools, learn sense. Hear, for I will speak noble things, and from my lips will come what is right. From my mouth I will utter truth. Wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are righteous. There is nothing twisted or crooked in them. They are all straight to him who understands, and right to those who find knowledge. Take my instruction instead of silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than jewels, and all that you desire cannot compare with her. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and I find knowledge and discretion. The fear of the Lord is a hatred of evil. Interesting. So we've read the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all wisdom, but the fear of the Lord is the hatred of evil. Pride and arrogance and the way of evil and perverted speech I hate. I have counsel and sound wisdom. I have insight. I have strength. By me kings reign, and rulers decree what is just. By me princes rule, and nobles all who govern justly. I love those who love me, and those who seek me diligently find me. Riches and honor with me, enduring wealth and righteousness. My fruit is better than gold, even fine gold, my yield than choice silver. I walk on the ways of righteousness and the paths of justice, granting an inheritance to those who love me and filling their treasuries. And again, it just goes on. Again, this is the personification of wisdom. This is the first third of Proverbs really is saying, hey, these are all the good things that you can have. If you seek wisdom, that is godly wisdom, not worldly wisdom, which tends to be very perverted, but godly wisdom. And then what? You can have wealth, you can rule, you can reign, you can be a great leader. If you're going to lead a people, you need wisdom, right? Not perverted speech, but straightforward, clear speech. We talked about word salads before. I love that term, word salads. When you are honest and you have integrity, you can speak clearly and straightforwardly. You don't have to be like some of these politicians that have a word salad, which a bunch of words and they actually say nothing. But I like the guys who are out there in civic life that just say what they think. They're very straightforward. They're clear. And that's when you have godly wisdom. You can speak that way, with boldness. You don't have to be afraid or worry. People are going to get offended no matter what. Your job is to not make sure everybody's feelings are right, but you need to speak truth and speak it clearly. You don't have to be crass or rude about it. You shouldn't be afraid to speak clearly. And this is what he's saying. It's a straightforward way that you talk when you have that wisdom. The Lord possessed me, verse 22, at the beginning of his work, the first of his acts of old. Ages ago I was set up at the first, before the beginning of the world, when there was no depths was brought forth, when there were no springs abounding with water, before the mountains had been shaped, before the hills I was brought forth, before he had made the earth with its fields, or the first dust of the world. When he established the heavens, I was there. When he drew a circle on the face of the deep, when he made firm the skies above, when he established the fountains of the deep, when he assigned to the sea its limit, so the waters might not transgress his command, when he marked out the foundations of the earth, then I was beside him like a master workman, and I was his daily delight, rejoicing before him, always rejoicing in his inhabited world, and delighting in the children of man. And again, more personification, wisdom. But this is interesting. So this is the first of all God's creations, wisdom. The wisdom of God before anything was ever made. Wisdom, right? So this is really important. And now, O sons, listen to me. Blessed are those. So he says sons now. So it's not, Solomon didn't just have one son. He had multiple sons. But blessed are those who keep my ways. Hear instruction, be wise, and do not neglect it. Blessed is the one who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, waiting beside my doors. For whoever finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord. You want the favor of God? Seek wisdom. But he who fails to find me injures himself, and all who hate me love death. Wow. So, if you hate godly wisdom, if you hate biblical wisdom, if you are against what the Bible teaches, you love death. Yeah. That's pretty straightforward. If you found this helpful, go ahead and click on the subscribe button, and we'll see you again next time for chapter 9. God bless.